Haha, that looks really cute.
Oh, I love it!
Welcome to the Mike Cassidy Photography Podcast.
Thank you, big voice in the sky. My name is Mike Cassidy, and I'm a boudoir photographer from New Jersey, and this is my show. I get to talk to some of the best photographers in the world to find out how they got started, what sparks their creativity, and what hurdles they've had to overcome to get their businesses going. Along the way, we'll probably have a few laughs, but I'm here to have in-depth conversations about all kinds of things you've always wanted to know from the best out there. So stay tuned, you never know what you may learn. Are you dancing? Why not? My name is Michael, and I'm your dancing neighbor. We need a little happiness and dancing right about now. Are you getting a bit stir-crazy? I've been locked up for a few weeks now. As you know, I'm located in New Jersey, not too far from New York City, which is the epicenter of the virus outbreak here in the U.S., and it's a serious situation. We're still in peak pandemic mode here, and it looks like we may have a few more weeks to go till this starts to settle down and passes. As this comes into your area, just be mentally prepared to be locked up for like 4 to 6 weeks. You know, just stay happy. You'll get through it. What have I been up to? Well, a lot, actually. I've been working on a website for this podcast, and I'm not a great web designer by any means. And what I'm trying to do, honestly, is probably a bit over my head, but I figured, what else is going on? So I thought I'd give it a shot. I'm making a website that's going to automatically import the podcast episodes and let people play them on the website, and I'll be able to add some other features on this website in the future. I think ultimately at some point I'm going to have some premium content available, and I wanted to get the groundwork in place to be able to add those features on in the future. And think about it, actually now there is no website for this show, so don't go there. I had to move the domain name to its new host, and I think it's still on the moving truck going to its new home. The new website is just on a temporary domain for the time being, and at the rate I work on things, it could be months before that starts to come together, but it's giving me something to do. And one thing about podcasts, if you're a fan of podcasts like me, this is a good time to listen to shows. You know, there's a lot of people producing photography podcasts out there. Basically every topic. There are pet photography podcasts, wedding podcasts, nature podcasts, general podcasts. You know, when I do a search, say like on Pocket Cast or Spotify for a photography podcast, there's a lot. And what's interesting to me is that you'll find shows on some app that you may not find on another. So search around a little bit, and you never know what you may find. And on some things, you can even drill down to search by episode titles, and you could find some interesting stuff out there. And podcasts are great to put on in the background if you're working at home, just hanging out, or just trying to kill some time. It's fun to search for new shows to listen to. It's been great for me, keep me busy. And what else? I got an email today from a photography site looking for me to produce some boudoir or other photography content for them. They sent me some documents. What they want mostly is like writing or video content that they can produce and resell. You get paid to create these items, and there's a revenue share involved. You know, what's interesting about the video part of it is that you don't have to edit anything. They edit and produce everything in-house, so I guess you just have to produce the raw video. So that can be a big time save for that part of it. You know, don't think I'm a video guy. I have to think about that. This face is pretty scary on video. One thing they sent me that did catch my eye was that this company is looking to put together like high-end, in quotes, workshops. They want to charge like $1,000 or more a person to attend these workshops, and I like the sound of that. High-end. Put me in a room with a bunch of people paying $1,000 or more to learn boudoir, and one of two things is going to happen. They're all going to come in Harry-Carry, or they are going to walk out of there boudoir geniuses. It's a gamble. I guess it all depends on what type of mood I'm in that day. Well, on to the show. Today's guest is Oksana Pali. Oksana is an excellent portrait, food, and branding photographer based out of Strong Island, or as you may know it, Long Island, which is not too far from where I am. Make sure you hop on over to her website and Instagram and take a look at her work. I'm so jealous because her photos are better than mine. Oksana is an interesting case on how your path in photography may change. She started out her career as a boudoir photographer, and now she is a super excellent portrait, food, and branding photographer. So how did that happen? Well, you'll have to listen to the show today to find out. So this is the point where I'm going to stop talking, and you can listen to Oksana. Just warn you, her photos are going to make you hungry. So stay safe, enjoy this episode, and keep dancing. All right, we're live. Oksana's here. She's very nervous. No, she's not very nervous. But before we even get started, my guest today is Oksana Pali. Oksana, introduce yourself to everybody listening.
Hi, everyone. My name is Oksana Pali, and I am a portrait and product photographer located on Long Island, New York. New York City, I travel. So that's what I do.
We're not far from each other. And before we even get going into this, there's one thing I have to bring up with you first is I have been following your new home now for like weeks, and so I feel like I'm your neighbor.
Oh,
I've been seeing everything come together. Watching everything like every day, seeing what's coming next. So this has been. I like watching that.
Thank you. I was wondering if I was putting too much out there because everybody always wonders if I'm putting too much personal things, too many personal things out, or and I seem to get positive feedback when people like to see what you're doing. Outside of your.
I followed you from your studs all the way to your designers and. How everything is. See, I'm like a tile person, so I love to see all the tiles and how that all comes together. So I guess I either I missed that part or it's still.
I'll make sure I'll add more tile for you.
I can't wait. I can't wait to see your bathrooms.
Okay, I don't have a lot of tile, but I have some.
I saw your wallpaper in the one, but that's the way that all comes together. See, to me, I like art and stuff so that's fascinating to me. So that's a good job, and it's a big mess going all through that stuff, but when it finally all comes together, you're like, and then you forget about all that trauma of all that construction and the displacement and
post-traumatic house disorder or whatever you want to call it.
So how long did that take from you breaking ground there to? It's a long time.
Well, for us, it's our second time doing something like this. It's our second time building a house, so it took us about a year, which is not that long. It takes some people longer, so it seemed long, but in the big
it went by pretty quick.
You
weren't homeless during the process. You were in there.
We were in a rental.
You were. So that's it's stressful to do that, and then people don't understand how many thousands of decisions go in that, from the little draw pulls to the color of this to the paint colors. It's not picking the wood. Picking your wood itself can take weeks for some people to.
Exactly. And that's why I decided to hire someone to help me with certain decisions. It was it went much quicker, and I made sure there were certain decisions I wanted to make I wasn't sure about, like darker colors, to have someone with another eye look at it and help you with that was
worth the money.
It really was.
Because there isn't enough Tylenol in this world
It was too much.
That people can give with the headaches from going in and seeing 400 choices for hardwood and going, oh my God, I don't know where to be. Do we want the wide ones? Do we want the short ones? Do we want the gray ones? Do we want more traditional? We want hand scrapey. It's overwhelming.
Your head starts spinning once you just walk in there.
You're right. And it's difficult enough for one person to do that. But when two people or so are trying to come to a decision on something like that, it really makes it even worse.
Well, I have to say that hiring a designer, she becomes like a marriage mediator too.
Yeah,
she has to help us merge our styles together. So, she brings something that we both like, which could cause a conflict, but it kind of avoids the conflict that would be.
It's true. It really is a test of a relationship, I think, where you find out who you are, because it really is. And I've seen it. I go through it. I've been through it. So it's and it's a trial. It can be a trial to put all that together. But enough about your home. See, I'm going to play something here, this music, because there's something I wanted to say to you, Oksana. And I've never said this to another photographer before, but your photos make me hungry. So that's why I wanted to bring you on this show today, to talk about this wonderful food photography. But not only that, you also do a lot of portrait work. So that was really, I saw that kind of work and I was like, wow. It really stood out to me. So that's one of the things we're going to talk a little bit about today. We're going to talk a little bit about your portrait work. And I just had your Instagram up, and I saw even you were doing some school photos too, which I don't know if that's a big thing in the Northeast. Do you find that people, or the high school pictures? Or senior photos.
Seniors,
yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because in this Northeast, I don't know if that's such a big thing. So I'll ask you a little bit about your experience with that kind of work, or if that's something new as well. So there's a lot to talk about. You got your hands in a lot of things there. But as when I have everybody on the show, the first thing we do is we go back in time a little bit. And when you hear that, I have so many sound effects. It's just like too many. We're going back in time.
I wish I could do that in real life.
I know. And I wish we could do that in real life. We're just going to go back to when you first got involved. And I want you to just talk a little bit about how you started in photography, or where the genesis was, and how you sort of became a pro when it comes to professional photography.
Okay. Yes. All right. So I was studying psychology in college, and I was always interested in art. And I actually grew up in USSR most of my life. And I just, like, art was never seemed like a kind of like a business to me, like anything. So was always drawn to that. And I took photography classes. I took some photography courses in college, and, a hobby, just like a lot of photographers start as a hobby.
Right.
And, as a project, I needed to take some portraits, and some of my friends were hairdressers and makeup artists, wanted some updated pictures for their portfolios. I mean, we're talking about 2008 or something like that. Mm. And I did that, and they just came out phenomenal. So they loved it. She did the hair and makeup, and we went to the beach, and we did a whole bunch of different photo shoots.
It became a thing.
And then people started asking me to do their photos, and I was kind of just doing it for fun and for free. And then I kind of said, why don't I charge for this? It's a lot of work. And then I started charging for it. And then that's when boudoir actually just started to gain traction. I lived in Manhattan at that point. And I got one boudoir client who told all of her friends. And it just really became a thing without me realizing.
Drawing.
I finished college at that point. And I was working in the city. And I built a website all of a sudden. I was just getting, once this girl had a photo shoot with me, she posted her pictures on Long Island Weddings, something like that. It was a website. Yeah. And they had the forum and the chat room, and I was getting, I think I got like 100 messages.
Isn't that funny how that happens like that? Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, oh my God, this is like a legit business here. So I had to get an LLC. I was booked up 6 months in advance. And it helps that back then there was not a lot of competition.
Right. It was new.
Yeah.
I think that was the beginning of the new resurgence of boudoir photography, because I think it was around for a long time, but it was kind of an underground thing.
Yes.
Very sketchy kind of a thing. And then at some point it became okay.
Right.
It became cute.
Women were empowering each other and actually posting these images on forums and seeing each other. And I was like, well, I want that for my, for my, mostly it was brides getting married and just kind of, I think, like your business, and they want to give a gift to their fiance. But there's different from all walks of life. So someone lost some weight or different reasons for that. So they became very successful, and I was doing that for a while. While I was living in Manhattan. And then I got pregnant. So we moved out to suburbs, and then I lost my studio. And I just decided to focus on my kids, and I had a little kid, and then I had 2 kids in a row. And if you're creative, just like probably many of you listening, you just can't kind of shut that off, So I was home and I was cooking and, taking care of the kids. So I started taking pictures of food. Because I didn't have portraits. So I started taking pictures of food. Because
that was what was nearby.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. I took pictures of my kids, yes, but they're usually like, infants, and how many of those can you take without driving people, crazy?
Baby pictures.
Baby pictures. And then I started posting those on Instagram. And that kind of took off. And I said, oh, this is really interesting. Food is, I love food. Everybody loves food. So I started photographing that. And slowly I started getting clients from Instagram.
Just from that. Now, let me ask you, you were just like making your lunch and said, boy, this veggie burger looks good. I'm just going to start. Or were you?
You've seen my veggie burger picture.
That's one of the pictures I had. And I was going to boy, this is. So it was just your lunch, and then you started to, or were you making something just to kind of take a.
Yeah, it was a little bit more thought out than that. It wasn't just, I didn't take a snapshot, because it does go a lot into prepping. So I would just say, okay, I'm going to make this, and thinking I'm going to photograph this. So I just, had some props, and I made sure that, so I started testing. I started playing around with it, the concept of food photography, and just like looking online on tutorials and things like that. So not always impromptu. I was cooking a lot, but I would carve out some time. Well, today I'm making this because I want to photograph it.
For a specific purpose, you were doing something
exactly. But then my family would benefit from it and eat it.
Because it would be a delicious, a delicious meal. So that's how that just came about. And was there a point where that started to get noticed? And how does that evolve? Does someone just see that and say, oh my God, you need to photograph my donuts and come down to my bakery? Or is there a professional part involved in that for you? Or how did that branch out?
Right. So because again, I think when I started, Instagram was just taking off as well. I was one of the few photographers, posting so many images on Instagram, and I started getting inquiries mainly from nutritionists, recipe developers, health coaches, people like that. So they would call me and they would say, well, I have a couple of recipes. Can you photograph them? Then a lot of brands reached out to me. Mm-hmm. And, some of them were, we'll send you a free product and we'll do that. Yeah, so I've done a couple of those, and then you just, there's stop doing that.
For the practice of it.
I did that for the practice and exposure too. So I've done some of that. And then I guess then the word of mouth starts. So one nutritionist tells the other nutritionist, and that's kind of like how that works. And but Instagram, again, recommendations. And I've had companies from California send me their products, and they would shoot them, and I worked with them on a monthly basis where they would just send me product, and I would shoot their social media stuff.
And then send it back to them.
Every month, yeah. Usually I don't send it back. They don't want it back. They just leave it with you.
Have a bite at it. Now, you're doing this right from home, because this is one thing I guess you could do right from your...
That's why I loved it. Yes. Yeah. That's why I loved it. I could do it from home, and, while the kids were little, it wasn't always easy. There's always bumps in the road.
Distractions. Yeah, but you could do it as your time allows. You can get in there and
right. It's not like a portrait. I could definitely do it when they're asleep.
Right. Put everybody for a nap and then come back and do the cupcakes.
Yes.
In the kitchen. So if I was to approach you, I imagine if I'm a company out in California and I make some cupcakes or energy bars or whatever the case may be, there's probably a lot of, no, rules are the right word, but they say, do they require a shot list, or is there a certain number of things that they say we have to get this, this, and this kind of a shot, or they leave that up to you and just review everything and pick the ones that they like the best?
No, I would get a shoot sheet, and they would usually send me images that they like, and they want something similar within a similar image, and they would write notes on it. We want something like this, but with exceptions of, you know, modifications to that shot. We want the white background. We want on this back. Won't you buy these props? They would want specific props if they were launching. Like say there was a drink company that I worked with, so they were launching in a store in Texas. So they want me to photograph it with the Texas flag. So they do give you a lot of direction, but they do give you a little bit of flexibility. This particular company did. They said if you think of something else, and then they would want 12 shots altogether, and that's what I would submit to them. And if they needed a change, sometimes I did have to reshoot certain things.
You're dealing with like an art director or somebody in that company, or who is typically your?
It was a small company. It was an art director.
Just like the owners or the.
Yeah, it was one of the owners. It was a small company, so it was one of the owners.
Are there a lot of instances or where you thought you did something really well and suddenly they're like, yeah, no, this isn't what we need. Redo this, and this. Is it fairly simple, or is there a lot of back and forth? Or people super particular about the images that they're receiving?
It was pretty straightforward because they did send me a visual of what they want. So I listened to them and they send notes. So they were very precise in what they wanted in their direction, so it was easy to execute. The only issues I had, maybe sometimes that was my mistake because I was rushing and I had kids. They had different flavors. Let's say I put the wrong flavor bottle in the shot. There was supposed to be lemon. It was my mistake, so I reshot that. So that was totally my fault, and I would reshoot that. But other than that, in terms of aesthetics or quality, that was never an issue. Mm-hmm. Because I try to do my best and I take my time and with every shot.
And they find you mostly through Instagram. These companies would, and that's always curious to me because, like, if I had a drink company in Texas, I guess you're tagging your photos. Are they searching for food photographer, or do they ever mention? She
did not find me through Instagram. She was a client of a friend. She was my client's friend, so they worked together. Used to work together. So she met me through her, and then she ended up following me on Instagram for a while before she contacted me. She did move to California, and then because she was following me on Instagram, I was fresh in her mind, and then she said, "Well, let me work with her because I know her style, and I could." So she decided to work with me, right? So she didn't go just looking on Instagram. Well, some people do that.
Yeah, because I talked to some folks, and that's like the primary way they advertise their work. And I know I don't get a lot of people that personally contact me through Instagram because I don't see that as a great local search option. Like if you go to look for pizza, I don't think the first thing you do is go to Instagram and start searching. It's not like so it's always curious to me when someone finds somebody and they say it's through Instagram, that they're using very particular hashtags or it's random luck or so forth. I would imagine, a lot of that is still through Google, food photographer, and then they're still going to probably search local, Texas or California. Right. So it's interesting to me how they find someone halfway across the country, unless that person's work really stands out or your name starts to get known in that business. And you have to go see Oksana. She did this, and this for us, and it kind of comes through word of mouth.
Well, it's like Instagram word of mouth, right? So if you're following somebody that you like, and then you see them working with me, so they might start following me as well. So I know, like, I have a client, Healthy with Nettie. She's a nutritionist and health coach. We work a lot together, so she'll post with me. We'll work together. She'll post about me in the stories and all of that behind the scenes. So people see that, and then they start following me, and then that's
and she's
how
on a blog.
What?
It's a blog, or it's a blog,
she has a blog, yes, but she's also became very successful on Instagram.
Oh, I see.
She's a health coach, so people follow her on Instagram, and then if they see stories my photos, and they say, well, she's good enough for her, she's good enough for me, right? So they ask her, who's your photographer? So they'll come to someone they respect on Instagram. So they might ask, who's doing your pictures? And she'll recommend me or whoever she thinks would be
do it. Yeah, no, that's interesting how things spread like that. And you're getting these calls, and I guess you ask someone like, how'd you hear about me? And they're like, oh, a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. So it's interesting how word travels. But not only that, there's a lot of trust in those recommendations from people. So usually when you it's interesting to me always to hear how someone finds me and they say it's like through 3 friends, and I'm like, wow, that they must have done a good job. So getting those kind of recommendations like that is a lot of social proof that you are doing your job, and it's interesting how things spread like that. So how has that part of your work evolved now? So are you getting, is that your focus or of what you're doing, or is that area still growing for you as far as the food work?
Right. So this is, just to reiterate that is the best referral, I think, the best way, just word of mouth, the best way to get clients. So while I was working with a lot of nutritionists and health coaches and bloggers, I was also, because they need pictures of their food, right, for recipes, but they also need branding photography. So they need pictures of themselves, cooking, action shots, and things like that. So the world is very visual now, right? We all know we're all on social media. And if you have a brand and business, you need to be out there, and people want to see who you are, and just selfies just don't cut it. Right? No one knows how to use lighting or how to take pictures of themselves. So that kind of was becoming bigger for me as well. So people were just saying, well, I don't really need just the food. I just need pictures of me. So then kind of it evolved. I started pivoting a little bit. So it evolved into more branding photography. So I started doing that as well. I started offering that, and I realized how much I miss portrait photography. So I wasn't doing boudoir anymore. And I also, during that time when I was doing food photography, my kids were growing up and they started in elementary school. I became a PTA president for 2 years.
Oh, president.
So that's part of like why I was just not offering boudoir anymore. I just felt like I can't.
Right. With the kids.
It was a little bit conflicting too. Yeah. Like I felt like it was a little bit limiting of what I could post. And so I started mostly branding photography and product photography. So, and I fell in love with it, I have to say, working with brands and helping them. Just with one of my clients, for example, Netta, so she started with a couple of thousand followers, and we worked together for the last 5 years. So every 3 or so months, I'll shoot her recipes. We'll do some branding shots for her cooking and action shots. And she just has blossomed on the internet. She's got over 70,000 followers, I think.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah. And then she has her little tribe, but that people respect her, but just things like that, watching people's businesses grow and being a part of that, helping them. So it was just evolving. They would call me and ask me just for a headshot, and then I will ask them a serious question. Well, what is the final goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What kind of shots do you really need? Are there for Facebook header, LinkedIn, Instagram? Do you need like behind the scenes shots? And they're like, oh, I didn't even think of that. So you give them these ideas, which become like the total branding then. So it's more, people don't even realize they need all that to grow their business too.
In this day, yeah, especially if they're online. That's important now for the people who want to be influencers or whatever they choose to do. And it's a growing field. And, this idea of branding photography is something that has popped up over the past couple of years, and you tend to see it more and more. And so that's your definition of it, I think, is helping somebody grow their business, in terms of not just their themselves, but also they're part of whatever they're promoting, whether it be fitness or cooking. It kind of brings everything all together. It's not just the photos of the person. You try to combine everything. Story.
Yes, it's telling their story. It's their business story, showing their why they're doing it, and showing their authentic personality through that. Because a headshot's just a headshot. I think we're now past that. People really want to see who you are, and they want to see visuals. They want you to see when they find out about your business. Where do they go? They go on your website. They go online, and what do they see? They want to see you look professional. They want you to look smart. They want you to see like you know what you're doing. So, but they will also want to see you as an approachable person. They want to see a friendly face, and they want to kind of feel the connection with you. So I try to go over all these points, hit all these points before the photo shoot, explain to people what to wear and how to create these images that.
Yeah. So that's an interesting question. So how does, someone, when you get that first email or text message or DM from somebody who says, hey, I've seen this work, and what's the process that you have from walking them from the beginning of that through the photo? What comes before that? I guess you have to find a lot about what they're doing and getting them to that goal, the ultimate point of expressing themselves in the best possible way that they can.
Yeah, the most important thing for me is to get them on the phone. Right, because everybody just tries to email everything, and and I do have pre-done PDFs, and I actually have a questionnaire for them that I make them fill out. So I get them on the phone, and I ask them lots of things about their business and what they want to accomplish with these images and with this photo shoot. We go over that. Then I make them do some homework. So they fill out this questionnaire. So I would ask them what they, let's say, what are the 5 different brands that they aspire to? What is their competition? What do they want to look
ideals,
like? Right. We don't want to copy, but what do you like about this brand or that brand? So they answer that. Then also I make them create a Pinterest board. So which they invite me to, so then I could see their vision, because you could describe one thing and you could have it in your head, but I could have another image in my head. So,
no, that's very helpful. Yeah, because they can you can see exactly kind of what they're aspiring to do.
We could be on the same page. So I know what they're looking for. I know what they like. I know if they put a lot of pictures that are outside in front of a cafe, I know that's what they want. Or I'm paying attention to what common theme is. I know what colors that they're using. What colors is your brand? Do you have brand colors? So all of that. And my client just said to me recently, we were going over, she's getting her branding. She's like, wow, you're like really helping me brand myself. Like, you're a branding expert. I'm like, no, I'm not. But it's just kind of.
No, you are. See, this is another thing that you just taking less time out of your life, and you're going to be doing this more. So it gets very involved.
Yeah. And I try to help them, and I truly do enjoy it. And I like helping them grow their businesses. It excites me. It's inspiring for me. And this is where it's been lately. So I do offer, I used to be kind of like more of a niche. So, right, it was just food photography, it was just boudoir photography. But I think branding and product kind of interconnected. So you could do a branding, but they might have a product. So I could photograph them, and I could photograph their product.
Right. When the perfect, or the idea there is to like health or fitness people,
right?
Because they can do gym work, or they can also be diet conscious and so forth. If they're trying to be like a trainer or something like that, it's multifaceted. It's involved. Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on.
Yes.
With something like that. But I guess the one thing, getting back into the portrait side, that brings in those geographic limitations again, too, because I'm guessing you typically need to work with people within a certain radius of where you are, because you're going to physically have to meet up with them unless they're paying to fly you to California or wherever they are. So as far as the actual photo shoot, is that becoming more complicated? Is there more things to consider or scenes involved, or you have to get to certain locations? Does it get more involved when you're dealing with branding with somebody? You have to create, like if they're a cook, you actually have to be in a kitchen, I guess, photographing them somewhere. So where do you find a location, or are you working at these people's homes?
I do offer them my kitchen.
Okay.
So I do that. Some of my clients that I come see every 3 or so months in the city, she's in Manhattan. She has a beautiful kitchen, so I photograph her in her space. So I just bring my lighting there, and we spend the whole day photographing food and her. So we'll do it there. Sometimes if it's a nutritionist that I had them come in, and I explain it to them, I say, well, I have a studio, and I could set up a table, and I could put like fruit and things like that. So we do like a makeshift setup. Like, it doesn't have to look like a kitchen. It could just be some food around. So she doesn't need to be cooking. She's a nutritionist. She explains it to people. So I would create a little bit of a set for that.
Yeah, that's another complication. That does become involved. Like I said a moment ago. Because food, and I guess just doing the food is easier because you don't necessarily have to be in a kitchen, because you're working with a much smaller space.
Right.
But when the person gets involved, there's a much bigger backdrop that needs to be accounted for.
Correct.
So you have to put them in that set. And especially if you're going in Manhattan, it's not fun dragging equipment around.
Also props, right. So I have to bring all not only my lighting equipment, but I pack out it's definitely taxing on your body, because I just fill up my whole trunk of the car. And my husband helped me last time, and he was like, "Do you really do all this by yourself every time?" I said, "Yes." He's like,
"Bring things up to the 14th floor, up and down. You got to charge like high-rise charges."
Well, yes, and you have to get it out of the car into the cart, and then into the elevator, and out into the apartment, and then pack it up again and do it the reverse. So.
And for people not in our area, we know that parking in Manhattan is not fun. It's not like you could just pull up in front of a building and there's a parking spot there and you can unload your car. Parking presents a challenge sometimes depending on where you're going.
So what I try to do though, those shoots, I do try to start early Saturday or Sunday. I try to do where there's no traffic, and I come in. Probably drive. It takes me about 40 minutes to get into the city, 35, 40 minutes at that time. And I leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm usually there, unpacked and everything around 7:15. And it just eliminates a lot of headache with the traffic stuff.
The traffic and the parking. So I'm guessing in this situation too, it's not just you alone. You probably have to work with makeup people, or are you bringing anybody with you when you go in to do that?
It depends on the people. So some of them have their own makeup and hair people that they schedule on their own. When it's my space, when people come to me, I do have someone come in. I try to have one person that does makeup and hair together because
that's a big part of it. That's a big part of getting that look too. Is the
coordinating.
Styling.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the most challenging things. Really, is like finding the right makeup and hair artist.
It's hard.
That is reliable.
Right.
Do you find that in your business?
Yeah, and I'm very lucky, and I have had a few people that have worked with me for like literally years and years, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and I've had a few people, and what I do, and this, like I told you, I was doing an interview last week with one of my makeup artists who didn't charge her Bluetooth headset, and the whole thing went. We have to redo this, but not only do they have to be with the hair and the makeup, but they also have to be this calming force. Because as you know, when you're working with women, they're very nervous when they come in. They think it's going to be all right. You're going to serve. So there's more to it. I think for a good makeup person, they have to be very good with people, not just the makeup and getting them calmed.
Especially with boudoir. That's, very nerve wracking. Sure. Even for a regular photo shoot like this, they get nervous. Women get nervous.
Yeah. And so makeup, there's a lot of people, like, I guess it's like anything else that enter this field. But, there's a few that sort of rise to the top, and it's, you got to do a little bit of work and a little bit of luck to find someone, like you said, that's reliable, that's going to do good work, and it's going to be with, or it's going to show up, regularly. Right.
Or someone, I have a photo shoot tomorrow and my makeup artist just canceled on me for tomorrow because of the coronavirus.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a big fear.
So now the fear is spreading, and I have to scramble to find someone else last minute for tomorrow because I can't cancel my photo shoot. I can't do that to my client. So these are real challenges. For me, that is kind of a challenge. Mm-hmm. Having several different makeup artists to go to, I guess, is a...
Well, I'll give you a few names when we're done with this. Okay. I'll give you a couple names.
Okay. Will they travel to Long Island?
I don't know. I'll see. They go because these women I know, they go all over New Jersey for weddings because I'm more central. They're all over the place.
Yeah, I've had clients. I have a lot of clients from New Jersey, believe it or not. So for branding, for photography, they did drive out. I do have a photo shoot. I am coming to New Jersey because my parents actually live in New Jersey. So I figured I'll do that. I'll pair it together. But yeah,
makeup is hard. But I guess even in addition to that, it's the styling.
Right.
Because people have to wear the right thing for the photo. So are you getting involved in that as well? Or are there styling people that have to come into play here?
I don't have a stylist at this point. I would like to have one as I get busier, and like I said, my kids are getting older, so I'm starting to get more and more involved. I have more time. So I don't have a stylist right now. It's me. I have a couple of different options. I also offer glamour shots, and I just did a mother and daughter beautiful, more fine art kind of style. Right. So I have a couple of options. I always have a couple of options in my space because you just don't know what people to bring. I try to educate them. I think that's one of the most important things, especially for branding, but really for any kind of photo shoot, for them to know what to wear. Because
and a lot of people don't know how to dress themselves.
Right. Or for photography. So for example, like, so people for headshots, they think, okay, well, the button down, like a silk button down will look beautiful, which it does in real life, but it does not look good in photos because it adds bulk around the waist. It's beautiful in real life, but you need something form fitting. So educating them before the photo shoot of what to wear is a big deal. I have a PDF about that. So I send them a PDF prior to the photo shoot that touches up on it a little bit about the color, what colors to pick, and what looks better in front of the camera, and I tell them just to overpack. I'm like, you're probably the only time you can hear it.
And changing clothes is quick.
Yeah.
And then, like I run into, I don't know if you run into this, sometimes people have like a favorite outfit and they're like, this is my favorite thing. And you're looking at it and going, well, all right, we'll just take a few, but you're not going to keep them because it just doesn't, people don't have a great sense of, I think they may love it, and that's enough. But in this situation, do you ever run into where someone sees something and you're kind of like, well, maybe that's not the best look for you? Do you?
Yeah, they definitely bring them. Well, I do try to educate them before, and I show them examples with the images. Well, this is why this works. This is why this doesn't work, and I tell them, if you just stay away from print, and we'll go over colors. So usually they come somewhat prepared, and like I said, bring extra stuff. So if we don't use, I'd rather not use something than us not have enough. Sometimes it works most of the times, but sometimes that doesn't even work.
Doesn't work.
So I have extra, like just a couple of simple tops, just
lying
like
around.
A black top or something like that. That is easy, wash, and something's very simple and neutral.
There's a lot involved. Yeah, there's a lot involved in that, and people don't realize ahead of time all the people and the time and the energy that goes into doing something like that. So who do you think? And this is a really tough question to answer. But when I look at your portrait work, I'm going to say it has like this bright and airy boudoir style to it, more pretty, like how
really? Boudoir? Okay.
I think, well, it's bright and it has to be happy, I guess, or when you're doing like branding. Yeah, for like branding, you don't want dark and moody images, I guess, for people who are like trying to be bloggers. That doesn't come across. But is that something that you consciously want to keep things very light and airy, or is that just how you tend to do it? That's not the best way to ask that question. But do you have to develop a style, and do you think that you're recognizable through a certain style in that branding photography, or is it just kind of, you don't think about that? You're not necessarily trying to set up the same lighting every time. It is what it is.
No, you're right. I do. I am conscious of it. Definitely. I am conscious of it. And I'm conscious of it when I post things on Instagram, because I want it to be coherent. Because my food is kind of similar too. It's very bright. It's not like one of those dark and moody foods. Yeah. So that is my style. While I have to say I've been dabbling into more like a portrait-wise on the different side, more darker and moody kind of photography. But that's just for family photos or something like that, or glamour, like a glamour photography. But for branding, yes, mine is very happy, light, but sophisticated at the same time. Clean lines. I don't like a lot of clutter, and it's just minimalistic, but clean.
Go through.
Clean.
And I just sent you may not see that. I sent you a link for a photo through that. If you click on that link, it shouldn't ruin your session. And people at home aren't going to be able to see this, but this is just one of the, I guess, branding photos that I came across.
Okay, yeah.
So tell me a little bit like this. See, now to me, this is very boudoir-y, or the light and cheery and bright. And it's very pretty.
Okay.
So what was going on here? And I'll post these photos like in the show notes so people can see what we were talking about here. But tell me a little bit about what's going on with this situation where there's this. I'll just explain briefly. There's a woman with a laptop in the bed, and she's sitting in a chair and holding coffee, and very well made up and cute outfit, multiple outfits on in there. And what's the scenario or what's going on in that photo?
So here, this is actually her apartment in New York City. And we wanted to convey the message of that she's approachable, right? As you see, like a white mug, light and airy. We have that beautiful chair. So just kind of, she looks approachable. She shows to see that she's blogging, obviously. She works from home. She's working from her bed. She's wearing a cute little button-down shirt. And there's a little bit of a leg showing, which would make it boudoir-y. And that's kind of the message that we wanted to convey that just like kind of a relaxed, homey feel. So people would connect to that, I think.
It's happy. Yeah, obviously, it's always like very relaxed, like you said, an approachable type of a look. And what was she doing, or what is her? What was the point for these photos here?
She's a health coach. So this is one of we've shot a lot of recipes at that day too. This was part of the shoot, and she needed some images for her website, for her blog. Okay. So we did. And I wanted to see Manhattan, that she lives in Manhattan. So we have a little bit of a view through the windows. And she's moved since then, but she's also still in Manhattan. I actually inherited that chair. I have it in my studio now.
Oh, wow.
Yes. But I don't have the city views to go with.
So that's one thing that went in your trunk to go on there?
Well, no, I had to get a moving truck to get that. It wouldn't fit in my trunk. But I offer that chair now.
So that's interesting. I'm just going to pop one more up on the link here, and this is something just a little bit different. This was one of the food shots, and this is probably one from your kitchen, I'm guessing. This is one of the ones that makes me hungry, and I'll let you take a look at this first.
Oh yes. This is a veggie burger. Yes, don't you just want to like that?
This is why I said it makes me like very hungry when I see. But I guess that's the point. That's not to be joking about it, but that's the goal of something.
It makes you hungry. That means it was a successful photograph.
Right. And you're like, wow. And so, what is involved in doing something like this? Again, we're looking at this delicious veggie burger with looks like avocado and tomato on top of it,
some lettuce.
And lettuce on there. And this does not come off the grill looking like this, I'm guessing.
It's not.
So what goes into making that look just? And was that one that you were doing, or was this for somebody else?
This one was for me. Yes, this one I did on my own. I believe. Maybe I did it for a client. They're all blurring together. This could have been a client's. I can't remember that now. It's right. It doesn't come out looking like that. And with this image in particular, you want height. So you want to shoot head on like this. You can't do a flat lay or anything like that. And the height is you see that I doubled up on the burger part actually. And you want to see, I'm actually salivating right now as I'm looking at it myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand by.
Hold on, I gotta grab something.
I was running to her kitchen.
I'm gonna whip that up quick. No, so and then also you have to make sure that the sauce is dripping
and that doesn't happen like that. So are you at this point where you have like syringes and you're squirting like?
We have to squirt it. Yeah, we have to squirt it. But I have to say, everything in the images I shoot, 99% is all authentic. So the trend now with all the bloggers and chefs, recipe developers, is really to make the photograph look as close as possible. So if the person does make it, you're not like, oh, well, this looks completely different than what it is. So you do have to, I use real ingredients. Like I don't use any glue instead of sauce. I mean,
like it's real food, essentially.
It's real food. I would, maybe the sauces I could modify a little bit, make them thicker or thinner. Some don't, it's sometimes to add maybe a little oil to things or spray things or there's a lot of tricks that go into
I'm sure that's a whole nother thing to because certain things aren't going to look the way for very long that you want them.
And I tell people, if I work with them, I say what certain things, let's say soups or whatnot, so undercook certain things, because if you cook with vegetables and stuff, they'll lose their color. They'll lose don't cook to eat it, really. You could finish it later. Let's cook it, photograph it, have a couple of chopped up, whatever ingredients do go in it, chopped up fresh, so we could throw some on the top just to kind of show what it is.
So you would be responsible for doing this preparation work too. If I hired you to do this and said we need this, this, and this, you're in your kitchen going to Wegmans, trying to get the best looking lettuce.
No. Well, it really depends on the job and the client. So if the client has a bigger budget and it's like, let's say it's for a magazine or something, because I've worked with other food photographers that shoot for magazines and stuff. They have a food stylist come in and do all of that.
Oh, so they're taking care of that.
There's a food stylist that there's food stylists. There's also prop stylists on top of that. So this
is so involved.
Yes, it's very complicated, and
just for a burger.
Just for a burger, and so I've done a lot of styling, so I could do that, and I do have a lot of props. So I kind of, for me, maybe for a blog, because they don't have that budget. So
Right.
I could offer all of those things at once because they can't afford hiring
I guess in Manhattan there are food stylists.
Oh yes, it's a job. Yeah, it's a job. There's a job as an ice cream scooper. I've worked with
to get perfect fringy round. Oh really?
The scoop, that perfect scoop. They have custom made scoops that to actually scoop the ice cream the right way.
There's a woman out there somewhere that has like a $5,000 special made scooper, and they fly her in a velvet pouch just to scoop the custard.
Ice cream, yes.
Oh my goodness.
There's food stylists for sure. There are many of them that are food stylists in Manhattan that just do, and they do a phenomenal job. And you as a photographer are really supposed to just control the lighting and sometimes
stay out of the way, let them do it, so it becomes segregation.
Well, it becomes, you have to work as a team because they have to understand which angle you are coming from, because they could style it one way. Because I've worked with some people that are beginner food stylists, and they would style it and put it in front of me. I'm like, well, that's not how I was going to shoot it. So I had to kind of rearrange things because it's not how the camera sees it. So an experienced stylist will kind of understand which angle you're shooting from and what they'll angle everything correct
to the right.
And usually when you do food photography, I always tether. For those who don't, do people probably know, do I need to say what tethering, which you connect your camera to the computer so you see the big screen right away. Yeah. So when I shoot food, I always tether so we both see it when the same.
Make adjustments on the fly.
Make adjustment. This needs to turn, this needs to turn. So the food stylists would see. So not all of them are created equal, but it's a job. Food stylist, yes.
Yeah, so that's how it is. It is complicated, and all this for a bean burrito. I'm going to do one more here because I'm going to torture you again. And
I like it. It's interesting to see
hungry. And again, I'll post these photos in the notes, so these people driving have no idea what we're talking about here. But
this is before I changed my screen name.
This is one other. This is. I was digging deep in the archives.
Wow, you did travel back. Well, I forgot about these. Okay.
So this is, tell me a little bit about this. It's like a fruit tart, or it's pastries?
This is actually a toast. So toast. It's a whole wheat bread with almond butter on top of it, with fresh organic raspberries and just a little bit of that green mint as a pop. So this is mostly color and kind of composition. This was a snack that I was giving my kids at home.
So this is at home with Oksana on a Wednesday afternoon.
Right. Well, not always like that, but yeah. This is what I was playing around with it, the compositions and coloring and testing certain
things. You cut every raspberry in half and just laid it on there with a little sprig on top, or those whole berries.
Some of them are cut, some of them are cut, and they strategically placed. Each one of them is, yes.
And then the idea, though, again, is it grabs somebody's eye. It makes something look like super, super delicious in that photo. And then a little bit on the technical side, what's going on around this? Or what are you doing is this natural lighting on here? Because I don't see any harsh shadows. It doesn't look like there's a lot of light interference here. It just looks very simple and clean.
Yes, this was shot with natural light, which I don't use a lot. I don't do a lot of natural lighting now, but I was shooting this because I was in my kitchen. I had beautiful window light next to it. I had a door to go outside, so I could put this on the chair or something on the table.
Right near
and I would use the natural light from the window, and on the opposite side, I would put in a white foam board or something just to bounce a little bit, reflect a little bit of light back to get rid of the harsh shadows and just leave a tiny bit of the shadows.
Because it's pretty. That's something you could frame and put on your wall in your kitchen. It's
well, thank you.
It's very nice. But one sort of a technical thing here, and this is something that always drives me nuts, I know when I work, but even little things like white balance in a photo like this can change the way everything looks. It could be too warm, it could be too cool. Mm-hmm. How do you work with that to keep everything on point? And I'm guessing if this is something that does have to go to print, that's super important in keeping everything very, balanced, color balanced properly. Is that something that you have to get involved with when you're doing that?
Yes, I do sometimes. If I work with a client, I do shoot, especially with natural lighting. There's a lot of color cast. So when I was shooting, depending on the season, where I was shooting. So let's say it was in the summer, there was a lot of green outside. So I would just get a lot of green color casts on it. Or I do take a picture of a gray card. And I just try to balance it out that way. Yeah, I do. Well, when I work with clients, I definitely do that. Sometimes,
because even
go ahead.
People don't think even the color of the paint in the room reflects and can change the way
absolutely
things look.
Yes, absolutely. So I do use the card.
It's tricky. That's a very hard part of it. I'm not very good at that. I use cards sometimes. Sometimes I try to color match, or in Lightroom try to get things balanced. But to me, it's not as super important. But I'm guessing if you're sending a picture like that to somebody, everything needs to be spot on.
Correct.
Any issues with that, or no? You have that system all kind of figured out.
I haven't had any complaints. The only thing I was getting requests on sometimes was to sharpen it more. So let's see. This is I'm shooting on shallow depths of field, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say too. Everything is very shallow. So
sometimes I would send it to clients. Well, depending on the food, right? This was the image. This was the mood that I was going for, and I was shooting this for myself. So when I shoot for clients, it's definitely higher aperture, and I would try to get more in focus. But let's say it's a salad, and sometimes, I don't know, people tend to go, it was a big trend going with all the bloggers where they were like oversaturating everything and they were over sharpening everything. And when my clients would say, they say, I want a shot like that. I'm like, oh, it doesn't even look good.
Normal. Yeah.
I don't know why you want this. This looks oversaturated. This looks over processed, and they just wanted that like look.
That was the trendy thing at the time. So I guess that comes down to, if they're paying you, you give them what they want, and that, even though it may not be in your preference, but those things tend to change and they tend to come and go. Is there any other trends you see? Like you mentioned, like real food, or now when you see a commercial on TV for like McDonald's or something, they show the hamburger that's this big, and then when you go to get it, it's really like, oh my God, that big. So there is definitely a trend to keep things more real now, or keep the ingredients real when you're doing something like
especially online with the blogs and the recipe developers and nutritionists. That's definitely, they want to keep it as authentic as possible.
And how about, do they have any input in the style that you use? Because me personally, I'm not very good with gear. I like to keep things as simple as I possibly can. And you mentioned some of these are natural light, but when there's a situation where it's not natural light and you're indoors, getting that look is hard, that bright and airy kind of feel. What kind of lighting setup do you use, or does it depend on the situation?
For food?
Yeah.
I bring my soft boxes with me. So I have a rectangular softbox, which replicates the window, really. So I find that easier now. I've done a lot of, once you start using strobes, it just,
you get used to it,
and there's just so much more light control. And once you know how to use it, you could work in different situations. I find it harder now not harder, but more inconvenient to use natural lighting, because there's constantly, it constantly changes. There's a cloud goes by and I have to adjust my shutter speed. I have to adjust this, or even your white balance changes, all of that changes. But once I set my strobes a certain way and I have the light backdrop, to go back to your question, you asked me if I want for food photography. I usually use a softbox, a large softbox, which replicates the window. It looks like, so the little highlights, specular highlights, they do look like a window. So
always on or flash, or is it always on lights?
It's not continuous. It's strobe. It's flash. Yeah, it's strobe lighting, not continuous. I mean, I could have modeling light on just to see where it's falling, but because I'm tethered to the computer, I see the image right away, and I could turn it up or down as I need. And I either use a reflector white card or silver card if it needs more reflection on the other side, or I put like a smaller softbox on the opposite side to fill in the harsh shadows. It really depends what kind of look I'm going for.
There's more control. And I guess once you get that figured out, you kind of know your basic setup and everything that needs to go with that, and you can fine tune it from there.
And let me tell you, I learned the hard way, because I did one of those hard photo shoots where I had to pack up my trunk and I brought all my lighting and I logged everything up, and I was shooting and I forgot to bring my cord for the light to plug in the strobe lighting. I just left it at home. I mean,
it can happen.
With all the equipment, and I mean, I have a list of bring everything, and usually the cord it must have fell off when I was putting in the trunk, so I couldn't get it anywhere at that point. It was B&H was closed. I think they closed on Saturday, Sundays.
Yeah.
So I couldn't run to B&H, and I didn't want to waste a whole hour. And we were just like, I said, all right, I'm just going to shoot with natural light.
Find a window.
Like I used to. So, and I remember that day, and I was like, I can't, but this is tough once you get used to your certain routine. And
yeah, it's hard to break it. But you're right. That makes sense using that because it's more controlled. You can get an exact outcome. If a cloud comes by, it's going to change everything. So in that situation, unless they ask for, I guess, natural light.
She doesn't care. They don't really care. They just want beautiful pictures. They don't care how you accomplish it. To them, she didn't seem fazed by it at all. Because I try not to panic in front of her. I try to keep calm. I try to keep calm, and she's known I've worked with natural lighting with her before, so she knows that we could do it. But inside, I was just so mad at myself. Like, how could I forget this? But
you made it out all right. You made it through.
I did. Well, the good thing, I started as a natural light photographer. So it's just going back to your roots. I guess it's always good to know how to do natural lighting, because if you don't have
it's hard. Yeah. No, and CMI, what I used to do is, first of all, I just hate lugging things around. But secondly, I think it always just got in the way, especially if you're working with a woman. Hold on, I got to move this light, and hold on, it just gets in the way to me, and big things going off in somebody's face. And sometimes I do have one little, forever, all I used was a speed light. I would set it, and I would use a little bit if it was cloudy or something like that. Now I went for broke and got one of these $200 or $300 mini strobes that has like a battery in it. It comes from Adorama. I forget what it's called. Evolve 200 or something. It's a tiny, one step up from a flash. And I just want to keep that gear to a minimum, because I think it just gets in the way when you're working with somebody, and when you're with the women, you just want to have you and them. I don't think that all that gear gets in the way. So I kind of eliminated that. I used to store it more, than I don't really need this, and I don't really need this. So I just prefer to keep it simpler, but that's just me, and that's just the way I tend to
work in natural light.
Yeah, and I do have something with me, like I said, on a cloudy day, just to have a little bit of a fill light, but I don't like cords. No, it's just like a flash, and I have a very kind of I don't bring soft boxes or stuff like that. It has this I don't know what you call, like a globe head. You just put it on. It's like a flash bulb kind of, or a strobe kind of a head, and it's just like a diffuser that goes on there. Yeah, just a real soft kind of a fill light. Just because I like, again, simple, pretty, sort of like a natural type of a look. I'm not one of those people that photographs a lot of harsh shadows. I'm not one of those dark kind of photographers. So to me, it just keeps bright and cute kind of a work.
Photography is beautiful.
Well, thank you. I'm very self-conscious about that.
No, I'm beautiful.
Not very good taking praise, but I'm always working. I still, at this point, when I work with somebody, I come home, and when I'm looking at that, I'm like, what could I have done better? What could I have improved, or how could I have moved her this way or this way? And then really, that's how crazy I am. And I'll make the notes the next time I'll do this and this and this. And I'm still always trying to add more poses into my work. But it's this never ending thing to try to become the best at whatever it is that you do. And that's just how I operate.
But you're always evolving. That's how you learn. Practice, not theory. You could watch someone else do it, but unless you do it and perfect it, you're never gonna. And I just, you always have your points where like, oh, am I good enough? Or will I go through that too? Where is my photography good enough? And we always self-doubt. I could have done this better. I could have done that better. And you'll always be evolving. I mean, when I look, I just was cleaning out my stuff, and I pulled out my old external hard drive, and I looked at some of those boudoir pictures in 2008, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe people bought that.
And that's another thing I always talk about with people, because I do talk to a lot of boudoir photographers. Like, do you remember your first session, and how bad was it? Because I think everybody... you just don't get to that point of where everything looks good. There's always, and what people don't think, everyone starts somewhere, and there's always those first sessions that weren't the best, and you kind of work your way through it. And I think the idea is you always have to keep working to get better. And I think the the biggest misconception in photography, no matter what you do, and you see this online, you see this everywhere, is people think it's so simple. It's like you go to Adorama, you buy a camera, you get a website, and now you're a pro. And there's anything further from the truth than that. And I have sometimes people messaging me about becoming like a professional full-time photographer. And I say, it's about as easy as becoming a professional full-time guitarist. Like, how many people do you know make a living with a guitar in a rock band? It's not like you can go to a Guitar Center, say, I want the same model as Eddie Van Halen, and the people are going to start attacking you to get you to join their band. It doesn't work that way. And I think that's the one big misconception in photography is there's this message out there that that's exactly how it works, and there's anything further from the truth. And I'm guessing you can back me up there.
I could back you up, and I could add to that, because I think not only that you have to be so good at your skill that you do, right? You have to be a great photographer, which takes practice and practice and practice. But you also have to be a business person. So that's the people that I think that's the part people don't realize, that how much admin stuff that goes into it. And you have to market yourself, you have to answer emails, you have to do the tax. It's just like any other business. So you have to wear that hat on top of it. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to go and be creative. Some of my friends just say to me always, like, I'll get DMs or messages from them like, oh my God, I want your job. Like your job looks so fabulous, looks so amazing. Like, you don't know the behind the scenes of it. You don't know the makeup artist canceling. You don't know like
right.
the client canceling or it's just, there's just so much more that goes into it. The correspondence and the educating people. You have to love all of it. Or I don't love all of it. And then the retouching. That's very, very time consuming.
That's another. That's my least favorite part of all this. That's a lot of work. That's most of the work.
Do you outsource it?
No, I do it myself. I'm the kind of person that I couldn't stand somebody else, because that has to be me. And I again want to keep things very simple, very seamless. I a long time ago, I could save a lot of my time by getting it right up front. I frame pictures exactly how I want them. I get the light how I want it. Very, very little, because it can take so much time, afterwards doing that. So I try to get most of it right up front. Little things that I fix, but I couldn't let somebody else do that. I couldn't outsource that, because then it wouldn't be mine, and you have no control on how they may change or do something.
And the posing for this is crucial. I think the posing is crucial, because that's so much could be done with posing where you don't have to retouch that. And then,
well, you're good at that, and we'll finish up here soon. I want to keep it too long, but I noticed you're doing more portrait work too.
Yes.
Yeah. So who's coming to see you for that now? Like, what type of woman who was your client now that's coming in to do some portraits?
So, other than branding, this is kind of like a new avenue for me. I've never done that. I've been enjoying, because I work mostly with women, even with branding. So it's kind of like my style that women are drawn to. And so kind of a woman, any woman that's, I would say, in 40s and 50s maybe, that not that she's been forgotten, but she's been a mom for a while and she hasn't felt beautiful and she doesn't want to go for a full boudoir. She doesn't feel comfortable with herself. So like the glamour photo session where she could wear a beautiful gown and get her makeup and the hair done. I just had a photo shoot on the other day, a mom and the daughter, and the mom felt amazing. It was a mother and daughter day. The girl was 10 and she came with her mom and they both just felt beautiful for a day. And it's just an heirloom that they're going to keep forever. So
forever, the two of them.
And yeah, and the posing and all of that, it's not much different than boudoir in terms of you have to pose them in the right way.
Yeah, because people don't know what to do, and their hands are, I don't know where to put my hands. Right. So it takes a little practice to learn how to do that. But I guess I was looking at your Instagram and I saw a couple on there that were portrait styles. There was a woman in a black dress.
Right. The flowy dress, like a movement.
You have the fans all going. You have someone throwing the dress in the
well, they're the supermodel for the day. That's what I tell them.
Right. Well, that's good. The pictures are very nice, but again, there's more work involved in that than what sort of meets the eye on in the front of that picture. So you're okay doing that in like studio? Where is that you're going in Manhattan to do that?
No, that's in my space. Yeah. I had a makeup artist stay and for a little bit and help me do the dress flowing and blowing and.
No, it's good because nobody has nice pictures of themselves. So that's something I always do with my people. I tell them to bring dresses, and I don't get that involved in that. But I always like to do some portraits for people at first, and they're like, "Why? I don't want to do this." But those photos get the most mileage because no one, I shouldn't say that, but wants to show grandma or mom pictures of themselves with no clothes on. So they take these pictures in the dresses, and they're very proud of them, and they can show them to lots of people. So it's good. I think women need to do more.
I used to do that too. Now that you mentioned, I used to tell people when I did boudoir, I said, bring a dress or something a little bit more modest, just so you could frame it. I said, you will have your makeup and hair done, and these you will show to your significant other or yourself, whatever it is. But you want to maybe frame one or two. You want to share that on your profile or wherever. So just bring that dress, and also you could market that because some people are not comfortable you posting that. Now that I found that very limited with boudoir because I was photographing a lot of teachers.
Yeah, teachers or professionals, and I understand that, and but now that's changed too, where a lot of people do. It's just not as secretive as it used to be 10 years ago. There's always jobs like teachers where you can't, but that has changed. I found that's changed a lot, where people are like, yeah, you could use my picture, that's fine. So,
okay, well that's
I like
great.
But not only that, you could sell people very expensive wall art.
Yes.
If you do these portraits, it's just another avenue that you can make some money from. If you do like women's portrait photography,
that's what I've been doing. I've been going towards print, and I tell them that don't stop hiding behind the camera as a mom. You're always taking pictures of your kids and you're always behind the camera. Just what will your kids find of you when they grow up, when they look for you, when you're gone? What will they see? A selfie? No, let them show you what you really are, like your inner beauty.
It's important. I think more people need to do that. We're going to start a trend. We're going to get more people to come into women's portrait work. I just added one more thing to your plate now. You're like that bastard. Now I have to be in charge changing women's portrait photography in America. I'm not coming on this show anymore.
I feel like that. I agree. I do.
And people don't know they're missing it because they never had it.
Yeah.
That's really what that comes down to. And when they see those nice pictures, it's really it's hard to describe, but they love
experience.
It. Yeah. And you have the one I saw watching your one Instagram. I guess you have a little reveal wall.
Yes.
And the woman, I can't believe it. That's a great feeling.
Yes,
I know.
And to see it in print, though, it makes such a big difference. If you send it to them online, they might love it. Yes, but
it makes it real.
In print and touching it and having it a tangible something that they could just take and put on the wall. It's a whole different experience.
And that's a very unexpected part of doing that work that you don't think about, is that change, how you can impact, even if it's for a short time, how you can impact somebody's life like that and make their day a little bit better, where otherwise and it's a small gap. You're really bridging that gap between how they see themselves and what they really are. And you can connect those two things, and it's not that far of a distance. And then you can create that happiness in somebody's life. So that's part of the magic of that. But that's for another episode or another time. Yeah, I don't want to keep you too long. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank
today.
you so much for having me.
We covered like a lot of ground, and see now, if I need some new branding photos, I'm only going to you. I wouldn't trust anybody.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to be. This would crack your camera lens.
No, it wouldn't.
Face.
No,
You'd be like,
no.
There wouldn't be enough makeup artists on the East Coast to.
No, don't say that.
To do that, and then I'm going to be inviting myself over to your house too for some of those veggie burgers.
For veggie burgers, and to look at my tile.
That's right. I'll get your tile veggie burger and do the
tile
do some work. But just one last thing before we go, and this is again not a super easy question to answer, but anybody starting like in photography business like now, what do you think is like sort of one piece of basic advice you may give to somebody just starting, whether it is in boudoir or portrait or food photography, something that now that you wished you knew back when you were starting?
No, there's so much. I'm just trying to narrow it down. I would say, don't overwhelm yourself with a lot of gear. A lot of people just go out and start buying and thinking that it's going to improve their craft. I didn't start buying strobe lighting, and for a while I was a natural light shooter. I would say stay consistent and don't give up. Like, your work will get better. We get excited. We get like one good shot and then we think we're great. And then the next day we're so hard on ourselves, and it's kind of like an up and down road. I would say consistency is the most important thing. And I have to remind myself of that I have to be more consistent on social media. But even with your work, just be consistent. And if you just ask your friends, ask your family, and shoot whoever you can. Just get as much practice as you want. And then the work eventually will come. Once you get better, people will
take care of itself.
It will take care of itself. Just just keep going. Just don't give up. I think that's I've slowed down many times before, well, kids or this or that, and I just, kind of stopped myself. I feel like I would have been much further along than I am if I didn't
continuously.
Like I would put myself on the pause for 2 years as I was doing a PTA president.
You need a break sometimes.
But then I felt like I was starting from scratch again. So just keep going and do at least a little bit, at least a little bit on a consistent basis.
Right. So practice makes perfect.
Yes.
Don't give up.
Practice makes progress. That's what one of my kids told me the other day.
Words of advice. Oh, there you go.
He said, not perfect, practice makes progress. I was like, know what? You got me on that, because it's not about perfection. It's about for progress and movement.
Words to live by from Oksana Pali. And where can everybody find you? Where can we find your delicious food photos and everything else that you do on the interwebs? So
everything is on my website. It's oksanapali.com. It's OKSANAPALI.com. And on Instagram, it's my handle is Oksana, OKSANA.PALI. And that's where I live, on my website and on Instagram.
Perfect. And you did it.
Yes, I did it. Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun to talk to you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Bye.